Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at the Samsung 4 Series Soundbar. Now these have become very popular in recent years. They've replaced the 5.1 systems that were popular, starting around 2003 up until like 2015, the ones you had to wire all around the top of your roof, your house, and all that. These have kind of replaced those recently, simply because they're easier to use. You can slide them right in underneath your telly, and they're very easy to use and set up, and they're all there. And these have also been necessitated by modern tellies being so thin. So if you remember in the olden days, there used to be big edges on your telly, and it had big speakers in there. You remember those? And they actually had decent speakers. And it starting about 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, the edges on the tellies got really thin. So now they can only fit shite speakers in there. So you've got shite speakers, which means you basically have to buy these now when you get a new telly. And this is the 4 Series, general mid-range one. I'd say probably the best to get. 300 watts. Now you see on the box here, and these boxes are very strange. This is actually one piece. Look at this. It looks like a guitar. Like a very strange shape they got on these things there. But as you can see, this is the 4 Series HW-KM45. Now Samsung changes the model number every year. So if you're looking at this, it may be the HM-K450 or M450 or N450. But honestly, I've looked at the specs. They all seem to be exactly the same, to be honest with you. So I think they just do that for inventory control so they can get those out of the system, and sell more boxes. So if you see a good deal on one that has a slightly different number here, don't worry about it. The 4 Series are all the same. You see on the front here it says 300 watts. They're all the same watts. Sometimes they're 3 or 290 or 320, depending on the year. I think honestly they're exactly the same. They just changed that to make it sound different. All right, so let's crack this thing open here. Look at that. Give that a little cut. These boxes are very strange. It's amazing they don't get broken in shipping, honestly. And cut that there, right. And then there's nothing stuck on that one there. That one's open. And so I don't know if this is 2 pieces or not. All right. So this has like a pull handle. Okay, that's quite easy. That is obviously the sub. That is a subwoofer there. And if we look inside the box, what we got in there, we got a bag with a bunch of stuff. Oh, there's a remote in there. Quite nice, quite nice. We'll talk about that a wee bit later. I'll put that there. Oh, well, that made a loud sound. Did I break something? That's all good. And then I think the bottom part has got to be the actual bar. So I don't know. It's a very strange packaging. Are you supposed to take that out of there? That is very strange. Isn't it that odd? How do you get that piece out of there? Well, I guess we have to tear the box a wee bit there. Okay, there we go. You know, well, there we can get that piece out. That there, and now we have the actual bar itself. Oh, and there it is. Look at that, so sleek. And there is the actual sound bar itself. You can see they're very nice. It's all metal, got a nice grill on there, and there's the connection points. We'll talk about that later. Okay, now let's look at the woofer. Now that is quite heavy. Now the concept of all of these, this goes back to kind of Bose pioneered this idea that you could have very small tweeters like this with a very large subwoofer, and it gives you the same sound, and you can hide this big Lundy wherever you want it to go, have it out of the way, and so that's kind of all the modern consumer sound systems kind of have that same concept of the small tweeter and the huge woofer. Now these woofers are actually wireless. You can see on the top there, you see that little Wi-Fi logo? These are wireless. We'll talk about why that's important in a wee bit when we set that up. But first, let's see what's in this bag. Got the knife. Whoop. So there's the remote. You can see it's actually very nice. It feels like it's metal. I don't actually think it is, but it feels like it's metal, and it has these nice kind of halo buttons on there. So that feels very high quality. I'll say that for Samsung. Oh, and it has a button cell. If that's for the remote, I'll be very upset. Yeah, so the remote has a button cell. That is actually annoying because you can never find these bloody things when you need them. And then here, we'll cut open the rest of the bag. And it comes with a optical cable. I'll show you that in a minute. Plug that in. Power cord. And power brick. Because this is wireless, the subwoofer to that, these have two separate power supplies. That explains that for you, in case you're wondering why there's two. The other power cord. So obviously only one of these needs a brick. A rather weighty item in here. Let's see what this is. Appears to be some sort of mounting hardware. Not those items, we'll figure that out later. And another tiny wee one. Got some wee screws in there, I won't take those out right now. So that's that, and that, and that. And the manual, of course. Alright, so there is the soundbar. I will come back in a minute, and we'll get it hooked up to your telly. Alright, so now we're going to go over how to set up your Samsung soundbar. Okay, so first step, this thing is kind of strange here, but if you look on the edge there, you see that? It actually tell you that the Samsung logo doesn't go like that. It actually goes like that. So it's flat on your telly. And then on the back side of the item there, of the bar, as it were, you can see the connections. There's the optical, USB, aux, just a little 3.5 sound connector, the HDMI in, and the HDMI out for ARC. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then the power source. So first things first, let's get this plugged in. So the bar, like I thought before, the bar actually takes the power brick. So just so you know, the subwoofer has an integrated power supply, and the bar takes the power brick, obviously because it's nice and streamlined. They couldn't fit the actual power supply in there. So we'll take that. Okay, so now we have the woofer, and we can see the light there is blinking. And now where did I put the remote? There it is. Got the remote. So if I put the power button, I wonder if it'll turn on. It does no. How strange. Okay, after consulting the manual, I found out that I actually put the battery in the wrong way in the remote. So this thing, like I said, it's kind of stupid. I wish it came with a normal, A cell. But you put it in like that, and then you got to put that in, line it up with the little dots. This thing is actually very poorly designed. And then you got to twist it to get it locked in. And this is a real pain in the arse. I'll tell you right there. Get that like that, and twist. Okay, all good. Oh, by the way, I looked in the manual. These are wall brackets for the bar if you wanted to mount them on the wall for some reason. Okay, I'll put that there. So now, when we press the power button, it comes on. So this is actually kind of nice. It's nice and streamlined. You can see there's actually a hidden wee screen in there into the overall aesthetic of the bar. That's kind of cool. I'll see if we can zoom in a bit. You see that? DN. Very nice, very streamlined. Alright, and we can see now that I've turned that on, the light has gone solid on the woofer. If you remember a second ago, that was blinking. Now that's solid, so it should be all connected. So now all we have to do is we have to hook up the telly itself. Alright, so as you know, we basically have three options for hooking up the telly. We can use the HDMI return, this is called ARC, A-R-C, Audio Return Channel. We can use that to hook up the soundbar. We can use the optical cable to hook up the soundbar. This is fiber optic. You'd think this was a modern technology. This actually dates back to the 80s when CDs were first invented. That standard came out. Or you can use an aux, which is basically the headphone connector on your phone or something like that. Now the best way to hook this up, I think, if your telly has the option, is to use HDMI with ARC. And I'll explain why in a minute. With ARC, the volume on your telly will control the volume on the soundbar, which is a nice benefit to have. With these two, that won't happen. So let's go ahead and give that a go right now. HDMI out. It's hard to get that in there. And then on the back of the telly, you can see we have all the HDMI inputs, blah, blah, blah. There's the optical, blah, blah, blah. And you see this one says ARC on it. So that's the one that you want to go ahead and plug that in like so. Tight space there. And then automatically the sound comes on. As you know, I had the telly muted a minute ago, and now you can hear it making all sorts of sound. Now, if we do that, hopefully the best thing with ARC is we can take the telly remote, because remember, here's the remote for the bar, and here's the telly remote. And if we're lucky, we should be able to hit mute on that, and it mutes the sound on the bar. Now, this is the greatest thing, because I don't know about you, but I hate having a giant pile of remotes right in front of your telly, so it's nice that they integrate with each other. Now, as we go generally into the review here, we'll just talk about the buttons on the remote here, and we'll see what's going on. So if we look on the unit here, we got the buttons on the remote, and we'll go ahead and we'll mute this for a second there. Okay. And so on here, it says sound control, so you got treble, bass, subwoofer, audio, sync, don't know what that is, and treble. So I guess you can adjust all of those. So you can adjust all of those as you like. So there you go, bass +1, +3. I know all of you watching this, if you're watching Jurassic Park on there, you wanted to shake your butt when the dinosaur comes around. You want to turn your bass way up. I won't do that though. I'll keep that at 0. Put that back down to 0. And then let's see what these other buttons do. Sound effect, standard, music, clear. I guess we'll unmute it here. We can see what these different things sound like. Right. So sound effect, clear, sports. Sports is louder, maybe a bit more bassy. Movie sounds the same to me. Night. That sounds the same to me too. And standard. Clear. Clear voice, okay. I'll leave it on movie for the time being. Okay, now we'll do the test that I know everyone is always most curious about. How loud is the bloody thing? So here I have my very unscientific sound meter on my phone, and I unplugged the soundbar. So these are the built-in speakers now. And here, just to show you, that's the built-in speakers. You notice it doesn't say ARC on the device anymore. So we'll go ahead, we'll crank this up. And I've got my meter. There, can you see it? There we go, 429. We'll go ahead and crank this up to, I don't know, maximum. So like we're looking at 45 dB or so. So let's go ahead and plug in the soundbar. And then with the soundbar, we'll crank it up. I don't know if I can go to maximum, it might be a bit too loud here, we'll see. can see that it is quite a bit louder, but more importantly, it's a lot clearer. Alright, so that concludes our review of the Samsung 4 Series soundbar. I think it is actually quite a good value for the money. You can get these for about $150, $180. Well, it also has one other cool feature. It has, I just wanted to mention this real fast, pretty neat. If you go to, let's see here, Source, if you see on the Wii menu there, you go BT. So it has Bluetooth audio, which is kind of nice, so you can connect it to your phone and play songs from there. I'll do another video and show you how to do that exactly, but that is a pretty neat feature as well. I want to mention that. But I think it's a good value. It's tremendous quality. Like I said, I can't get over how nice this remote is. Even though I'll be using ARC, and you should use ARC too, just because it gets rid of extra remotes you don't need. But man, it feels great, that one. And this feels great as well. It's all completely metal. And very heavy too. It doesn't even feel cheap, I'll say that. And I also wanted to mention one more thing, which is, so if you have one that has a wireless sub like this, there is actually one benefit to this. At first I was thinking, well, what's the point of that? Why would you have a wireless sub? I mean, you want your sub and your tweeters in the same area. There is one benefit. You can, if you like, take your wireless sub, if you have it, and move it over and hide it on the edge of your couch here. Honestly, this isn't kind of in the middle of the room, so it's not the best idea, but if most couches are kind of on the edge of the wall or whatever, you can hide the sub there. And then when you're sitting on the edge of the couch, you can really feel the sub in your bum there. So that's one benefit to having the wireless sub. I was trying to figure out why they did that otherwise. Now, one other quick thing I wanted to mention, and I noticed this just by chance. When I have this plugged in with ARC, and I don't know if this is the same with all tellies or not, or just mine, it actually started controlling the Blu-ray player with the television remote. You see, this is a Samsung remote for the telly. This is the one for the soundbar, and the Blu-ray player is behind there. It started controlling the menu. So literally, with ARC enabled, this controls everything plugged into the telly with one remote. One of a pet peeve of mine is having a pile of remotes, like I mentioned earlier. So I don't know if that works with everybody, but that's a really cool feature, actually, of having ARC enabled. So alright, there's the Samsung 4 Series soundbar. I say go ahead, get one.